Yeah, so we're interested in all aspects of open education, but particularly open educational resources, which are resources that have an open licence, such as Creative Commons. And what we're particularly interested in is how they're used and what the impact is for learners and educators.
I see. And what is the impact you have found?
Well, we did a big piece of work from about 2012 onwards looking at impact of OER. We found 6 main findings. The first was that use of OER can improve student performance, student satisfaction, student retention. Next, we found that people tend to use OER differently from other licensed materials. Another finding was that just kind of general open educational practice can lead to an increase in widening participation. Perhaps an interesting finding that doesn't often get reported is that we found that educators who use OER tend to reflect upon their own practice and change their own practice as a result of that. The fifth finding was that we operate in an open manner, what we call a kind of open research. We kind of share things as we go along, we share our data, we maintain a social media account, and actually that open research approach is a very effective way to work as a research team. And lastly, we found that use of OER, investigating impact and open educational practice, research in the area itself is an emerging discipline that people are beginning to focus on and bring funding to.
So having established underpinning research, what is the case for impact of the work of the OER Hub specifically?
Yeah, so for each of those 6 areas of interest, what we tried to do was then find further funding and further research projects that would act as a kind of pathway to impact. And so we've developed kind of 6 areas of impact, we think, that are relevant for us. So the first is that we helped establish a global evidence base. So at the start of OER, there wasn't much evidence around. Most people tended to sort of talk about OER would do good things, it would have an impact, would help improve things, but there wasn't much evidence to back that up because most of the funding went into creating OER. So we've kind of helped establish the evidence base that people can look at and say this is how people are using OER effectively. We worked with a number of organisations, so our second area of impact is helping those organisations themselves improve their understanding of their users, so people like Creative Commons, OpenStax, BC Campus. An interesting area is we've helped influence the practice of educators themselves, so we work with global educators. We run a project called the GoGN, Global Network of OER Researchers, and we've helped shape their own practice. And sort of an outcome of all of this is perhaps the fourth area. We've helped establish a global research community in this area. As I mentioned, there wasn't much research done on the impact of OER before, and by working with different partners around the world, we've helped sort of build that research expertise and build that research community. The fifth area is perhaps an interesting one, is that we're not just talking about research into OER, but also we like to model open research practice ourselves. So one of the things we're saying is that by modelling and promoting open practice, we've helped shape that for other people in the community. And lastly, by working with individuals and institutions, we've helped shape policy on how they approach OER by using our research to kind of help inform that policy.
So for each of the impact claims you link to one or more specific projects?
That's right, yes. We thought it was very important to have a clear project. You could say this was the pathway to impact for that evidence. And so it wasn't just here's some evidence, but rather there was a pathway that you could demonstrate.
So how will you evidence this work?
We're going to evidence it through a number of means. So first of all, being academics, we publish a lot. So we've written lots of papers in open access journals, written books as well as conference papers, those kind of things. So there's kind of formal publication and citations. I mentioned that we've worked with lots of different organisations globally, and we have a pretty good reputation with those. So we'll be seeking testimonials to evidence the impact and how we've kind of shaped their policy. We've also generated quite a lot of outputs beyond just formal publications. So we shared our data openly, we produced infographics, we created an open researcher pack, we produced open courses. So we'll also be looking at the kind of data and analytics of those that see who's accessed them and how they've been used. And lastly, we'll be looking for evidence of any policies that have been shaped as a result of our work.
This sounds like research that fits very well with the Open University's mission. Is there a direct link?
Yeah, very much so. So one of the things we're interested in is just the change in definition of what open education means. So since 2000 odd, it's come to really mean OER and open educational practice, but we like to sort of point out that the Open University was doing a form of open education before that. And I think you can see a common theme running through all of this. So I think linking back to that kind of history of open education and how they help inform each stage is a really important part for us.
Thank you, Professor Martin.
Thank you.